So this is just a review of the last 3 days. Basically the main different forms. We've got vertex form, factored form, and general form. Do you have a question?
Do we actually have to show work saying that 6 minus 6 equals 0?
Do you have to show work? Well, it depends on the type of problem. If all I asked you for was your zeros on this problem, you're right that the 0 on this problem is 6 or -9. Those are my two zeros. And no, I wouldn't need to see any work on that one. But if I asked you to give me the zeros for this equation, yeah, I'd need to see work on that because there's going to be a fair amount of work that you'll have to do. So I'm a reasonable person on this. If you just jump right to x equals 6 and x equals -9, that'd be fine. But if you look at the directions here, I'm not even talking about finding the zeros. On this, it says which ones are vertex form or factored form. None of them are in general form. So let's look at those four. So what's the first one? That's factored form. And that's good for finding zeros like we just did, -9 and +6. And the other ones are all in what form? Vertex form. The only one that's kind of weird is this one on the top right. How is this weird? How is it unusual compared to the others? It doesn't have that point at the end. So if I put like a +0 here, does that make it clearer what the vertex is? Okay, you can always do that if you want. All right, so now I'd like you to multiply this one out. It's a little unusual, this first one, because it's got the 9 and the x reversed. Now, you could reverse them and multiply it, because you should know anyway that won't make any difference. Or you can just try it with FOIL the normal way, which would be your firsts will be this one and this one, and your outside ones, which are this one and this one, and then the inside and then the last. It'll work either way. So multiply it out right now, please, and see what you get. Still have general form then. Just do the first one. Okay, we're back from the pause. Hopefully you got x squared plus 3x minus 54. How many had it right? Good. Brains are warming up then. That's a good sign. All right, the next one. A common mistake is that people will say it's x squared minus 16. Another common mistake is to say that it's x squared plus 16. It is neither one of them. Why not? What do you have to do in this problem here to get the answer? Yes? Yes, I'd like that way of saying it. Put it into factored form, or just stretch it out into x minus 4 and x minus 4. Multiply that out and remind yourself that the answer is not x squared plus 16. I'll give you a second. I'll pause. And there it is. You're right. Okay. On to the next one. Here we have to do this before we multiply it by the 4. Why? Stuff inside parentheses goes first, and even more importantly, there's something on the parentheses. An exponent. Parentheses and exponents both come before this multiplied by 4. So you have to do this part first and then multiply it by 4. And the last thing you'll do is this part, the subtract 8. Why? Because in the order of operation, add, subtract come last. Okay, go ahead and do that in the right order and see what you get. And then go ahead on to the last one and do that one when you're ready. We're back. Did you get that? 4x squared plus 16x plus 8. Raise your hand if you did. Okay, good. If you didn't, just look for your mistake. And the last one here. Negative 3x squared plus 30x minus 69. Raise your hand if you had all 4 of them right. That's most people. All right, good. Now, looking at this last one, I know the y-intercept. Bam! Right away. It's negative 69. That means it's way down on the scale. I wouldn't be able to graph this one on a normal graph paper. Okay. How about this negative in front? What does that tell me? It's kind of important. It's flipped. It's upside down. It's like a mountain-shaped parabola. All right. And can I look at this thing and just see what the vertex is like right away? No, because it's not in vertex form. Was this in vertex form? Yes, and so I should know the vertex from that. What's the vertex? 5, 6. All right. Any questions about those? All right, so We've learned 3 different forms now. Factored form, that's kind of like this one here. The vertex form, that's like the other 3 were, like this one's in vertex form. The vertex here would be -2 comma -8. And then when you multiply them out, you get general form. That's like these are in general form. All right, general form is good for the y-intercept. And one more thing. What's the other thing that that general form is good for? Solving, yes?
ABC.
Yes, it tells you A, B, and C, so you can solve the quadratic formula with, or use the quadratic formula. There's A, there's B, and there's C. So the general form is good for telling you A, B, and C, which helps with the quadratic formula. All right, back to this. This is a typical problem from Thursday, I think, of last week. So you're given an equation, and the equation will tell me all this stuff. General form, generally, you just have to multiply it out. The y-intercept will come very easily after that. The x-intercepts, I can look at this and solve it with ZPP and say, oh, what'll make this 0 and what'll make that 0? Those tell me my x-intercepts really easy. All right, take a minute and solve those. So we've revealed the first few answers here, and the axis of symmetry now goes right between the 2 x-intercepts. Well, you could either average 6 and -2, which means add them together and get 4 and divide that by 2 and you get 2. Or you can just look at your graph when you graph it and see that the line goes right between those 2 is 2. Last thing is the vertex. Now most people know at least this much, that the vertex is on that line. That's kind of the point of the line that goes right down here. This is the axis of symmetry. That means that the vertex has got to be on that. So that means that x part of it is 2. See what I'm saying? You can always know the x part of your vertex that way. Now there's more than one way to find the y part of it. For right now, I'm just going to use this. There's a neato little rule you can use like this. The distance here, it looks like it's 2 because my graph, where every box on my graph is actually worth 2 though. So this distance is 4 here. Do you remember what to do to that distance to figure out? Square it. So it would be 16. So we go down 16. Which in this case is 8 boxes, but we go down the 16. So there's my -16. All right, just wanted to show you that way today. Let's look at this one. I've got a graph this time, so it's easy to find my x-intercepts. They're just like, there they are. Okay, the x-intercepts are what and what? -1, and if in case you can't count that far, -7. All right. The axis of symmetry's got to go right down the middle of those 2, so I'm going to do it graphically. I'm just going to say, that looks like it's about the middle. Okay, and I could have done it by averaging the 2, but either way, the answer comes out to -4. Okay, so next, I have my vertex. Vertex has got to be on that line. The little method I just showed you, this is 3, so what does it have to be? 9. The only way that won't work is if, or -9 to be exact, is if you have a stretched parabola. You have to look and see if it's normal parabola, like over 1 up 1 kind of parabola, or whether you've got one that goes stretched like over 1 and up 3. Then that wouldn't work. You could do the same thing, you just have to factor in the stretch factor. Last thing, vertex form. That just means I take my vertex here, and you guys know that this is a counterintuitive thing, so it's the opposite of that goes in there, and then that one's not counterintuitive because it's on the outside. All right, remember that? Okay, now factored form for this, well, I could either look at my x-intercepts and figure it out, or I could multiply this out and get general form. I'm going to do that. See this? Multiply it out just gives you that. Once I have general form, if I can factor it, then I'd have factored form. But you could also get this factored form by saying, I know the answers to my 2 little problems are this one, which is -1, and this one, which is -7. So I can write it that way. Either way works. And last is the y-intercept, the easiest question of all. It's just found in general form at the end right there. The x-intercept is where, or the y-intercept is where x is 0. So I'd put in a 0 here and here, and it would make it 7. All right, that's enough review for today. And you got your homework coming out in a few seconds. It's just a short little half sheet. And that's all there is for the video then.